We can look at our lives as a series of scenes broken down, almost like a play. And instead of trying to kind of hang on to the past and the future, we can instead just really narrow down to the scenes. I think that there's basically three ways we can look at time when it comes to life. One is there's just the day, there's the task in front of us, and there's the present moment. So what I'm focusing on today is the task in front of us, because I do think that that's really where you can narrow down and get the most benefit from a mindful approach. Good day, everyone. Thanks for joining me. As you know, my name's Nichols, and welcome to the show. So, this first came to me when I was actually playing Grand Theft Auto 5, and I realised that one thing I love about that game is you can get like a really, really narrowed down, a very discrete task. The game itself is super chaotic and super strange. Well, not really strange, but super chaotic. And it's, there's so many things happening in it. But what ends up happening is you end up being narrowed down to a single task, single checkpoint, single task, single objective. I found that really, really relaxing. I think it's really important to think about life in that way to some extent, because what can happen is we can seek to do a particular task, but we're so bound up in the past and future and all the things that make up our identity that we're not really focusing on the task at all. We're sort of just distracted by our mind. And the way I look at it is when we wake up in the morning, I found that I tend to have these moments where I'm able to let go of everything else and really focus on that day. So when I think about it, I want to basically make sure the day is aligned at the beginning of the day. I want to make sure that the day is aligned with an overall goal. Have a clear aim and objective of my life, and then a goal from there based on that overall aim of life. And look, this is an evolving process. You're not going to have everything figured out, but it's more just a case of continuously to kind of fine-tune what the aim is in your life. Like write something down. That's what I've tended to work out. Write something down, and over time you'll start to fine-tune it if you keep a diary. So understand the objective of the day, which ties to the objective of your life. And then from there, you work out what tasks you need to do. And sometimes it's very obvious, like just work, tasks, this and that. But if you really narrow down, it's kind of interesting because you can not realize that you're doing this. Is often when you're doing a task, you realize you're actually not really thinking fully about the task itself. There's many other things that are distracting you. So the idea basically being is you take a very mindful approach and you just simply narrow down to just that one task. Let go of all the past and future and even your own sense of identity, and everything is that task at hand. And that task has to be generally time limited or checkpoint limited. So you might be at work and be like, okay, let's bash out like the first half of this document or maybe a framework for this document. And that's all you focus on. That's the whole thing. And that's a task-focused thing. And that's it. And I think that is, in fact, life. You string all those things together in a succession and you've lived your life. And the reason why you've lived your life is if you focus on that task and you focus on the present moment and fully be present in that task, that's all you really can ask yourself. Everything else is details. So you might be like, oh, well, what happens if I don't want to make a certain amount of money, I want to do this, I want to do that. They're probably just stories that you're telling yourself. At the end of the day, there is only just a task in front of you. You can add whatever things you want to that, whatever narrative you want to that task, but it doesn't actually matter. How much money you make in 10 years' time doesn't matter to the chin-up you're doing right now. Whether or not you need to buy flowers for your spouse, whatever, that afternoon makes absolutely no difference to the framework of the document. These are two separate things. And what you're doing by thinking about the other thing that you can't do at this current time is you're actually just not living your life. All right, I think that's pretty much what I have to say about that. Thanks for listening. That's the conventional view of it. And now I'm just talking about the slightly less conventional view, just the mindful view of it. I think in a deeper mindfulness practice, what this really is touching on is this idea that when you look deeply at the consciousness itself, there's this, what I think some disciplines called emptiness, and the other ones would call some other names, which I can't remember. But there's emptiness, and there's, I guess, the void. But basically, it's the idea that when you really stare at yourself and fully examine yourself, you realize there isn't a self there at all. There's just an ever-changing present moment. And the way I look at it is when you're getting a task, you're really just kind of focusing that attention just to one discrete thing. And by doing that, you can kind of let yourself go completely and and allow that sense of self to kind of disappear, which is one of the main things that mindfulness is about. Anyway, thanks for listening. Appreciate it. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.